door. This was like 90 below.
The evening is tending toward the evening. Yes.
Am I the first?
Mrs. Sheridan has been here about 20 minutes or so, I believe. His hair was somewhat windblown, and he went to the smallest room at the rear of the hall to effect repair.
Hasn't the dad come downstairs yet?
Your sister, I believe, is changing her gown, Miss Ainsley.
Probably the 14th time if I know the deal. I don't know who she thinks she's going to impress. What is that?
I have no idea, Miss. Mrs. Sheridan fastened it up there when he first arrived, and instructed me to allow no one to touch it.
How strange. Let's have a look, shall we?
What, Miss Ainsley?
Now, no qualms, Marvins. You did as instructed. I have been informed not to touch this thing. That I choose not to obey those instructions is no reflection on you.
Naughty, naughty.
I only wanted to peek out the temperatures you're being so mysterious about.
Even at the risk of your inheritance.
What? Are you saying this thing has some connection with Josiah's will?
As a matter of fact, it is Josiah's will.
What? On a chart? Isn't that a bit unusual?
Josiah Travers is not the usual man.
If you'll excuse me.
You may as well stay, Marvins. After all, the reading of the will is scheduled for 8 o'clock. If you go all the way to the servants' quarters at your normal speed, you'll never make it back in time. Relax, Marvins. I'll get your.
I'd better go and get the rest of the staff.
Come in before your treat is swollen.
Patricia, Pippi, we're almost ready to start.
I hope this is the Travers residence, because if it's not, I'm staying here anyhow. That weather's not fit for polar bears. I need a drink. Hooray, an oasis. Mind if I help myself?
I don't believe we've been introduced.
I don't believe it either. I'm Lane Fondue. Who are you?
I'm Louise Ainsley, Mrs. Travers' sister, but I don't believe I recognize your name, Miss Fondue wasn't still in.
Is there an Albert Sheridan here?
I am Adam Sheridan, Miss Fondue. So glad you could make it.
Friday nights are easy. I don't have to get up for work in the morning.
What sort of work do you do, Miss Fondue?
I'm a kindergarten teacher. And you can call me Wayne.
Either I don't understand. I had assumed that tonight would be just family.
I'm really following your late Uncle Josiah's instructions, Eloise. He left a list of names with most specific about what's to come.
I see. Miss, that is, could you explain
How I knew Josie?
Josie? Do you mean Uncle Josiah?
Well, I could hardly call him that, seeing as he wasn't my uncle now, could I? Come to think of it, how come you do? I mean, he wasn't your uncle either.
Well, I always thought of him as such, and I mean he practically was. Well, he was the uncle of my dear sister that I was just late, husband Charles. So you see, Miss Fondue.
Family-wise, you're no more his relative than I am.
You have no right to say that.
Just because it's a fact?
Now, ladies. There's no need to squabble. Especially in front of servants.
Are we starting pretty soon? I've got a crab roast of lamb in the oven.
Darn, I grabbed me a Big Mac on the way over. You should have told me there'd be refreshments.
Excuse me.
I'll get it, Marvin. Why don't you get up, sit down, and make yourselves comfortable?
Doesn't seem fitting somehow.
But I've done my teeth all day, and it is rather special.
Miss Fondue, you never did explain how you happen to know my Uncle Josiah.
It's nothing juicy. Really, honey.
Oh, but I never said.
You were thinking.
Hi, I'm Jerry Doe. Hope we're not late. We took granted for a taxi.
We cannot begin until everyone is present anyhow. Make yourselves comfortable while you're waiting.
Who else is coming?
Just one more from outside. The others are still upstairs.
Well, hello there. Can I offer you something?
Really, Miss Fondue?
Fondue?
Wayne.
cemetery.
Well, my late husband Charles was into taxidermy as a hobby. Quite adept at it, really. Oh, but I'm forgetting my manners. I am Eloise Ainsley. This is Pippi, our parlor maid. Lucretia, our cook. And Maud, our butler.
And I'm Heather Sheridan, the late Josiah Travers lawyer.
So you were Aunt Eloise.
I beg your pardon!
Why? What do you do?
I'm sorry for the familiarity with Eloise. It's just Connie always calls me that.
I wasn't aware that you knew my niece.
He ought to. They're getting married in 2 weeks.
That's impossible!
Well, improbable perhaps, I'll grant you. Where is Connie anyhow?
Now, just a moment. My niece Connie is in the social register.
I'm merely in the Manhattan phone book. Is that it?
Well, I must admit, the name Jerry Delvin means absolutely nothing to me.
It's not his fault you don't do crossword puzzles.
I beg your pardon.
Now what do you do?
Aunt Eloise, that's how Jerry makes his living.
Oh, I haven't realized you'd all come down here.
Eloise, will you relax? Uncle Josiah introduced him himself. You know how funny with the puzzles.
Well, yes, but
Don't be such a party poop, Auntie. A good puzzle constructor can make a very nice living at it. Hi, are you kidding?
You certainly are.
Fuzzy, that's short for first name. Don't get any ideas.
Too late. May I fix you a drink?
My sister's under 21. That never stopped me before.
I'll put a lot of soda in it.
Doesn't it get the alcohol into the bloodstream even faster?
You're reading my mind.
who are all these people? I thought you and I were supposed to be family.
You really losing your share of the Travers millions, don't you?
Why, the more people in the wheel,
The less money there is to go around.
but I will tell you.
I will tell all of you, this is not an ordinary will.
See, don't be ridiculous. You cannot possibly know the terms of
I
the
know
will.
Josiah Travers. A man like that would not make an ordinary will.
I hate to say it, but she's probably right.
Have I ever been wrong? Not so long as I've known you. And Zita's been my companion for most of my adult life.
That is a long time.
Really, Kirsten?
Hold it. Things are going a little too fast for me. Could I have a go around of the names again?
Maybe they should have printed up programs.
Here, let me do it for everyone's benefit.
No, just putting names to people isn't enough. I should like to know why certain persons are here.
But isn't this gathering by invitation only?
Well, yes,
I believe Eloise is trying to sort out in her mind what possible reasons there are for certain of those invitations.
Oh, I get it. Okay, here, let me start. I'm Jerry Delvin. I make my living creating puzzles for a variety of different magazines. One day, Josiah Travers had come to my office to complain to me about an erroneous definition I'd given for a puzzle clue. He was very big on puzzles.
He certainly was. We could barely keep him supplied with enough puzzles to satisfy him.
even so, the world must be full of puzzle constructors. Why should Josiah singled out Mr. Delvin to share in what should be family inheritance?
For that matter, why did he insist that Mr. Sheridan invite Buzzy? Buzzy never even met him.
Then how do you even know Buzzy existed?
Obviously, as a friend of Jerry's, his name cropped up in the investigator's report.
Zita,
Your great uncle had me investigated? Why didn't you tell me?
I was afraid you'd be upset.
You're right. The nerve of him snooping and prying into my...
Jerry, it's common practice in wealthy families to be certain that marriageable offspring don't fall prey to fortune.
Well, thanks a lot.
Jerry, honey, I didn't sick those detectives on you.
Of course you did, Jared. Give her a break, huh?
Oh, I'm sorry, Connie. You should have told me about it.
I'd still like to know how these two became engaged. Where did they meet? When did
The
they...
same day Josiah met Jerry, Aunt Eloise. He didn't drive, you must remember. I was playing chauffeur for him that day. We all went out to lunch, Jerry, Josiah, and myself, to argue about puzzle clues and such. And, well, one thing led to another.
Wait a minute. I didn't ask for everybody's entire autobiography. I just wanted to know who's who.
And I really wish to know what connection anybody had with Josiah.
Let's keep it simple. You've covered Jerry and Buzzy fairly well. Josiah admired Jerry's line of work, and for reasons known only to Josiah himself, also insisted we invite Jerry's best friend, Buzzy, to this gathering tonight.
So you're not in the puzzle business?
Not even close. I'm a pediatrician.
A children's doctor? How interesting. I teach kindergarten.
I knew we must have something in common. You teach the tots, I give them shots.
Mr. Burdett, May I remind you that we're here for the gathering of a will, not to hold our distance to the dating.
You sound disappointed.
Actually, I think he's jealous. Kissy. Saved by the bell. I'll get it.
Who else are we expecting?
Just one more, Eloise. Then we can get down to business. This should be Daniel Denton, the final guest on the list.
Dan Denton? But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to raise my voice.
Then why did you?
It's nothing, Bessie, nothing at all.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Denton.
Here, let me take your coat instead.
And I'm Kissy. Very glad to make your acquaintance, I'm sure.
Kirsten, when I was a young lady, it was considered unseemly for a girl to speak to a man without being properly introduced first.
What good did that do?
Glad to meet you, Kissy.
Now that we're all here, perhaps we may begin.
Not so fast. We still have a lot of identifying to do.
I thought you mystical types knew everything without being told.
Nobody's perfect.
Look, why don't you all find seats and we can get matters underway? Please.
I'm taking the comfortable chair.
Please, won't you join me on the sofa? Next to the servants? I'll act as a buffer.
I guess the cheese stands alone.
Are you sure we're not here for musical chairs?
There's the coffee table, if you don't mind.
I don't mind if you don't.
Well, if those legs aren't very sturdy, why don't you trade places with one of the servants? You were here first.
Really good appreciate it.
I don't mind. Honestly, I don't.
My roast. Excuse me.
Now's your chance, Dan.
You may as well, Mr. Denton. Anything to get matters over. Adler, can we please get on with it? We can always fill Lucretia in later.
That's not fair. Just because she has to cook for a while of you, why don't you go take care of dinner and we'll fill you in later?
Pippi, you are forgetting your place.
Nonsense, Eloise. Even servants have feelings. But yours is not.
Now that domestic harmony remains supreme, may we?
Adler, there's no call to be snotty.
Look, while we're waiting for Lucretia, why don't we finish that expose we started a moment ago?
Thank you, Kirsten. That's very thoughtful of you.
Not really. I guess I'm just as nosy as you are.
All right, let's have the roll call. We'll be brief about it. Now, Jerry and Buzzy have already been explained.
Not to me.
Very well. Take it from the top.
Okay. I'm Jerry Delvin, the puzzle instructor. Josiah Travers loves puzzles, and I presume that's why he invited me.
I'm Buzzy Burnett, a pediatrician. Since there are no tiny tots on the premises, I have to assume I'm here because Jerry's my best friend. It doesn't make sense, but there it is.
I'm Lane Fondue, and I teach kindergarten. I met Josie, that is Mr. Travers, at an assembly meeting at my school when he was guest of honor. He had donated a new wing to the school, and that's why I was there, to make the formal motions of turning over the check. I must have made an impression on him, I guess.
So, we know he has a sound mind.
Mr. Burdett!
Sorry, it just slipped out.
Well, I'm here because, well, I'm Connie Travers, Josiah's grandniece. And, well, I live here. Same goes for me, except I'm Kissy, not Connie, of course.
Your turn, Eloise.
Why should I have to?
You made us do it.
Oh, very well. I am Eloise Ainsley, the sister of the Doge Travers, who was married to the late Charles Travers, the nephew of Josiah. I am here by invitation, because I'm a family member, I suppose.
And I'm Theodosia, she just mentioned. I married Charles about 10 years ago when he was a widower with 2 young daughters of his. Charles died about 5 years ago, and, well, I've raised Connie and Kissy, and, well, I live here.
I'm Pippi Dixon, the parlour. I work here.
And I'm Mullins, the butler. I work here too.
I am Sybil Langsop. I have been Theo's friend and companion for many years. I came here to live when Charles passed away.
And Lucretia, who just went running out of here, is a family cook, of course. Does that cover everybody?
All except Dan Denton.
Well, this is rather embarrassing.
Should the ladies leave the room?
No, it's nothing like that. It's just, well, my name is Dan Denton. I never met Mr. Josiah Travers in my life. And I haven't even the faintest idea why I was invited here tonight.
Really? How very odd. I would have thought. That is, well, As Josiah's longtime lawyer, I was not expected to know all of his acquaintances, but he specifically requested that you be in attendance, Mr. Denton.
Wait. Perhaps it's not who Mr. Denton is. It's what he does. I mean, Josiah would simply say, a plumber. Have you not known the man personally? If you follow me. So perhaps...
Hey, that's good thinking. And come to think of it, you never did tell us what you are, Denton.
Only because I couldn't imagine what possible bearing it would have on my presence here tonight.
Just what do you do?
I can tell you that. Dan Denton is a plainclothes policeman working out of the homicide division.
Oh no! I'm looking all over that!
There, Eloise. I'm sure it's merely some sort of coincidence.
What is?
All over what?
Then you don't know?
I never told Jerry. It was so awful. The newspapers weren't given the total details, and the police commissioner was kind enough to keep the thing under wraps, as sort of a favor to the family.
He and Josiah have been very close friends.
Wait a minute, what details?
Keep what under wraps?
Yeah, what's going on around here anyhow? They well know the truth.
Kirsten!
No, she's right. It has to come out sometime.
Not at the rate it's going.
Connie, what have you been keeping from me?
Uncle Josiah, the way he died, you assumed it was because of old age. And, well, I let you go on assuming it.
Assuming you told me your great uncle died quite peacefully in his bed.
Well, he did, in a way.
What way?
Somebody chopped him up with a meat cleaver. 17 pieces.
Now I know what Connie meant by peacefully, except I was spelling it wrong.
Do you mean murder?
Jerry, a meat cleaver is hardly natural causes, and nobody could commit suicide that way.
Oh, you're all doing it again! Why must you keep dragging it up? Why? I tell you I had nothing to do with it! Nothing!
Now you see me fall, John. Lou, you don't understand.
What did Lucretia mean?
It was her meat cleaver that did the job. Fortunately, it was her night off, and she had a solid alibi.
Besides, anyone could have gotten that clean picture. We don't keep them locked up or anything.
You mean it's still hanging there? Or anybody might
Oh,
just...
no, we threw it away. Afterwards.
Didn't seem right somehow. Using it to fix meals.
So these days, we purchase our meat ready cut.
A pediatrician's day is never done. May I use your phone?
Really, Mr. Burdett, if we were ever to get the will read...
Adler, we can't start without Lucretia and Pippi anyhow.
You're right, of course, Connie. Let me try to get them back.
Listen, while we're waiting, I'm kind of curious. How is it that a kindergarten teacher is acquainted with a detective on a homicide?
That's easy. We belong to the same aerobics class.
How disappointing. I was hoping you'd get on a professional basis.
Sorry, honey. I haven't murdered anybody in weeks and weeks.
And I'm too tall for kindergarten.
Dr. Burdett here. What seems to be the problem? Oh, yes, I see. Put me through. Dr. Burdett, what seems to be the problem? Oh, darn. How did it happen? Uh-huh. Well, I guess some adhesive tape on the neck, at least for now. Yes. Which foot? And the left ear, too? How many pieces? Heck, I don't know. Well, if you really think you can. Yeah, but if that don't work, I think there's no hope. Right. Keep me posted. Right. Bye. My nurse dropped an antique vase.
I would still like to know how Josiah invited Dan here tonight, unless he was into aerobics also.
At his age, I can hardly keep up.
Excuse me, sir, but perhaps I can correct the mystery somewhat.
Yes?
Well, about a week before he about a week before he died, Master Josiah had me telephone the police department and ask for a list of names of the detective staff. I can only assume that Mr. Denton's name was upon that list.
Well, yes, it would be, of course. But so did a dozen others. Why do you choose me in particular?
I'm sorry, sir, I haven't the faintest idea.
Perhaps when Marilla's ready, the mystery will be cleared up.
I certainly hope so. I find the present situation utterly baffling. And the pantry on limit?
Yes, please, Mr. Sheridan. My curiosity is killing me.
No more than my own. I certainly hope somebody can clarify matters. I want you all to remember that Josiah Travers is not a usual person. Even I, his lawyer, am very much in the dark considering the natures of his final bequest. I can only carry out his orders as I am now doing so, without so much as a shred of real comprehension as to his aims.
Albert, are you saying that you don't know who gets what?
That's precisely what I'm saying. And now that you are all gathered here together, as Josiah specified, you'll see why. Behold, the last will and testament of Josiah Travers. Ain't it a beaut?
What is that?
Looks like gibberish.
Albert, I don't understand.
Hey, are you sure he's of sound mind?
I'm afraid I don't know any more about it than you do.
Well, I'll be darned. I already guessed he'd do something like that. Smiling box.
Jerry, do you mean you understand that thing?
Well, not exactly, but I recognize it for what it is.
What is it?
It's a rebus.
A what?
A rebus. It's a picture puzzle. These drawings and things stand for words. It was one of Josiah's favorite puzzle forms.
Do you really say you can read that thing? What does it say?
Well, wait a minute. I can read some parts of it right off the bat, but other parts take a little figure.
Oh, perhaps that's why Jerry was invited here tonight. Uncle Josiah knew we need someone to explain about the net.
It still doesn't explain why I was invited here, though.
I'm sure everything will become clear once we allow Mr. Delvin to read it to us.
Mina's right. Go ahead, Jerry. What does it say?
Well, wait a minute. Certain pictures can have a wide variety of interpretations, but I'll make it as clear as it is to me anyhow.
Yes, yes, we quite understand.
Just get to it.
Okay, it begins, my
We
friends.
can see that.
Don't interrupt.
I have to read the words so we know where the pictures fit in between them.
Of course you do, my boy. Go right ahead.
My friends, and there's sort of a teddy bear with the word me on its chest, followed by a period.
Meaning what?
Let's see, bear with me on. Oh, of course, that's it.
What?
My friends, please bear with me.
Oh, it's obvious once you figure it out.
Yes, but what can that next part mean?
Wait a moment. Someone should write this down.
I will.
The next part's kind of obscure. We have a pair of rectangles with an arrow indicating the second one, an ace of clubs, the word who's, and what appears to be a bunch of arms and legs.
That's just like Josiah's murder.
Eloise, get a hold of
That's right, Eloise. Calm down.
Shall I go on or what?
Go on, of course.
Okay then. Here we have the words enjoy dabbling in reef, followed by a couple of buses. Of course!
What?
In rebuses. In rebuses.
Oh, got it. But that stuff that comes before it, what do I put down? Members.
What?
Those arms and legs. They're members. Something about whose members enjoy dabbling in rebuses. Uncle Josiah used to belong to a club that specialized in creating and solving them.
A club. That's the Ace Club. A club whose members enjoy dabbling in rebuses.
But what can those two rectangles mean?
That's where rebuses get tough. I mean, there's such a wide variety of interpretations possible. Besides being boxes, they could be tetragons or oblongs. Maybe they're supposed to be two blank sheets of notebook paper placed at the end.
But that arrow must mean something.
Pippi, a well-trained parlourmaid only speaks when spoken to.
Eloise, under the circumstances, I think propriety should be left by the wayside. Pippi was invited after all. I think Josiah's rule should be fair game for anyone.
Well then, I have kind of an idea. Whatever those two things are, the arrow seems to mean we should consider only the second one. Do you see?
Yes, that must be it. Let's see. Second rectangle club. No, that's meaningless.
Wait a minute. Maybe that interpretation has its own variation. I mean, it could also be rectangle number 2 a club.
Or even, I want to.
Kissy, that's it. What? I belong to a club.
I don't get it.
It's fine. Most rebuses are. What that really stands for is I belong to a club whose members enjoy dabbling in rebuses.
I still don't get it.
I belong.
Oh, yes, of course. Why do you want to? This is fun.
high school.
My God, when was that?
Sometime before dirt.
Good for you, Marvins.
Got it. But that stuff comes before it. How do I get down?
Well, let's see. That next part's real easy. It's one of the first things I noticed when Mr. Sheridan unveiled the chart. Amidst all those words, we have a drawing of an open tin can, and then a mustached, balding man with an Elizabethan ruff around his neck. And what must be vital, all before the next period. Figure the man to be William Shakespeare. I mean, he certainly was Elizabethan, and that sketch looks like a painting of him. I saw it once.
But what could my last Shakespeare possibly mean?
Not Shakespeare. Will.
Oh.
Of course. So this next part for me. Therefore, I've decided to leave my vast fortune to anyone, friend, relative, or stranger, who can decode this, my last will and
Testament.
Oh, right.
Yes.
I'm afraid I'm stymied by that next part, though. Looks like someone machine gunned a pair of salamis. Anyone else care to give it a try?
Holy sausages.
That sounds like a line from Batman.
Perforated pepperoni.
That alliterates nicely. But what sense does it make?
Actually, those things look more like hot dogs to me. Well, what could punctured hot dogs mean?
Look, let's skip that part for now and come back to it later. Maybe it'll make more sense once we know the context.
What picture are we supposed to look behind?
Those are the only weird ones in the room.
So what's behind it?
Josiah's wall safe. Its location was supposed to be a secret.
Amber, obviously Uncle Josiah wanted us to know about it, or why put it into the will?
But whose faces are those in the picture?
Well, on the left, that's Sandra D, the movie actress.
It's some type of animal's paw with a flopper of a pimple on it.
And that guy on the right is Johann Sebastian Bach, if I remember correctly. But who's that gal cheek to cheek with her?
Seems to me she's another movie actress. Her face is very familiar.
Barbara Bach, of course.
Right next to Johann Sebastian Bach. The name similarity must mean something.
Well, why don't we add it all up and see what we've got?
A wall safe,
Sandra D.
Power with a zit on it.
Barbara Bach.
And Johann Sebastian Bach.
That doesn't add up to anything.
But it must, otherwise why would Joseph indicated it?
I've got it.
What?
A wall safe, Sandra D, a paw with a zit, and a pair of box.
Safe!
D.
Posit.
Box.
Safe deposit box!
You'll find a large sum of whatever those ventilated Wheaties mean in a safe deposit box in a wobbly vase.
Buzzy's nurse. She telephoned about a broken vase.
Flame, use your head. How could Josiah have known my nurse would get butterfingered the night the will was read?
Well, that's true enough, I guess.
Of course it is. Why, that silly errand's been loose for a while, ready to take a tumble. But Josiah wouldn't have known about it.
Buzzy, that's it!
What?
That doesn't mean a wobbly vase, it stands for Lucerne.
Of course. It makes perfect sense now.
Not to me, it doesn't.
Lucerne. Lucerne. The town in Switzerland.
But why go all the way to Lucerne in Switzerland to fill a safe deposit box with Forrest bratwurst?
We'll have to figure that part out later. Let's move on.
What's that written on the hypodermic?
Croquet. It's a sort of local anesthetic.
That stuff Dennis puts into your guns before he starts drilling, Lizzie.
Oh, that stuff. I hate the way it makes you feel.
On the contrary, you mean that way it makes you not feel. Everything goes totally numb.
Not as numb as you'd like it to be, though. I can feel the majority of them.
Kissy, you should tell the dentist when it happens, so he'll give you a little more.
Oh no, bad enough feeling numb without feeling even number.
That's it. It's another pun. Procaine is a number, but if you spell it out, it's spelled exactly like number.
The number of the safe deposit box in Lucerne. Why do you know this is getting more fun all the time? With all due respect to the dearly departed, of course.
Come off it, Eloise. You're enjoying yourself immensely. Why not admit it?
Well, maybe just a tiny bit.
Are we taking a dance break or what?
No, of course not. Mr. Duggan, will you please continue?
I don't know if I can. The meaning of that empty mailbox is me completely.
Well, let's try any context. You will find a large sum of whatever those holy sausages are in a safe deposit box in Lucerne, the number of which is first initially the something of this group.
That is odd. What's up, Tita? Why would Josiah say first and initially? They both mean the same thing, don't they?
Maybe it's some kind of a clue.
It has to be. A puzzle lover like Josiah wouldn't make a mistake like that.
Of course, he was expecting a meat cleaver at the moment.
That can't be.
Pippi is quite correct. The will was completed long before he was, that is, before somebody...
Yes, the will was completed at least a week before his death, maybe even 2 weeks. I forget exactly. I'll have to look it up.
But what about that empty mailbox?
Yes, we're getting off the track. Does anyone have any ideas?
Well, let's be logical here. An empty mailbox means there's no mail.
For no postal holiday?
The postal holiday of this group. No, makes no sense at all.
Maybe it's the name of the holiday, like Christmas.
President's Day?
Memorial Day?
Labor Day? Groundhog Day?
None of those seem to make any sense.
Maybe it's a semi-holiday like Halloween.
Halloween's not the holiday at all.
It is in Transylvania.
I wonder now.
What?
Well, I was born on Halloween, but I can't seem to fit my birthday into the text. The Mullen's birthday of this group.
Wait a minute. Maybe that's what those sausages mean.
What?
Halloween.
How do you figure, Buzzy?
Halloweenies.
Maybe on top of his head.
Now stop that. Let's do this thing calmly, shall we?
Oh, all right. I'm sorry, Dr. Burdett.
Forget about it. We're all kind of on edge right now.
Letters! Missing letters! That's what the mailbox means.
Jerry, honey, that can't be right. I mean, I'm looking for numbers, not letters, right?
Well, yeah, I guess you're right.
Why don't we go on to the next clue? We can always backtrack later.
Good idea. What can the significance of that guy in the toga be?
And why is he pushing a teapot away?
A teapot wearing a beret.
And don't forget the plus sign right in front of him.
Could that be Julius Caesar? I mean, he used to wear one of those coral reefs around his head.
Coral reefs.
Whatever.
Caesar, of course. And what was his final word?
Didn't he say et tu, Brute?
He did in the play, I know. But did he in real life?
Yes, I remember that from school. Shakespeare was using an actual quote at that point. That's why he left it in Latin.
What has that got to do with a beret and a teapot?
Maybe it's a French teapot.
What's French for teapot?
Search me.
The French word for tea is té. Is that any help?
Hey, listen, everybody. Et tu, Brute. Brute, brewing tea. But get rid of that part.
And that leaves Ed 2. But where does that leave us?
Those are the numbers for the safe deposit box in Lucerne. 8-2.
But it's not enough. I'm sure the numbers of a safe deposit box in Switzerland would be longer than that.
Maybe that's what the plus sign means.
Oh, of course. Those are only the first two numbers. That empty mailboxes indicate the numbers that come before them.
But how? What are missing letters have to do with the numbers?
Why don't we go on and come back to that part later?
Yes, why don't we?
Fine by me.
What is that next drawing anyhow?
Seems obvious to me. It's a Salem lying in the sun.
No, I mean that thing down by his feet.
It looks like a squashed football.
Or a badly drawn Valentine mark.
I think it's a kidney.
You're all wrong. It's a bean. I'm a cook. Trust me.
I think she's right.
A navy bean. It has to be. Or why else draw that sailor?
No, it's more like a lima bean.
Hold it. I don't think it's that type of bean at all. I think it simply means bean. That makes the phrase read, P.S. You should also know that I have beans.
That he has been what? And giving a tanning by a sailor?
Let's get back to that one later, too.
That next one's really puzzling.
The speed limit sign? What's so hard to figure? 0, 0 miles per hour. Seems simple enough to me.
But why 2 zeros? 0 miles per hour would mean the same thing.
Dan's right. That double zero must be significant somehow.
Roulette. That's the only thing that I know that uses 2 zeros.
Do you suppose it refers to Las Vegas? Might also be Monte Carlo.
Or even Atlantic City.
Which means it probably doesn't refer to any of them. A clue that vague would be playing fair.
Let's get on to the basket. Then we can go back over everything.
Let's see. There's a diamond marked AD and another diamond marked BC. And the second one is stuck in that I.
Diamond. Diamond. Diamond and I. Old diamond and I.
Jim, not diamond. Simon. Jim and I.
But Josiah wasn't into horoscopes, was he?
No, of course he wasn't.
Then why 2 diamonds?
Older. The first diamond is just a setup, showing a diamond's release date, while the other one is older.
So that last part reads, an older Gemini in this very house. Kindly see to, or at least the C and the 2 seem as simple as that. Kindly see to the usual legalities inherent in such instances.
In what instances?
Listen, as a lawyer of the group, doesn't that legality part somehow refer to me?
That would seem to make sense.
Kissy, what have you got so far?
Not a lot, I'm afraid. Here's what it says, more or less. My friends, please bear with me. I belong to a club whose members enjoy dabbling in rebuses. Therefore, I have decided to leave. My vast fortune to anyone, friend, relative, or stranger, who can quote this, my last will and testament.
Do you mean to say that there won't be any final bequests?
It would certainly seem so, dear.
But that's not fair.
It was Uncle Josiah's money, Aunt Eloise. He should be able to dispose of it any way he wanted.
Oh, that's easy for you to say. He's already left trust funds for you and Kirsten and Theodosia.
Listen, you can find out about the terms of the will later. Let's see what those terms are first, shall we?
Jerry is right. Go ahead, Kissy.
Okay, but here's where it starts getting kind of murky. You'll find a large sum of perforated hot dogs in a safe deposit box in Lucerne, the number of which is first initially the empty mailbox of this group, plus 82. Good luck to you all, and signed Josiah Travers. Then, P.S. You should also know that I've been that sailor in the sun by 00 miles per hour, an older Gemini in this very house. Kindly see the usual legalities inherent in such instances. Then initials after the P.S. and that's it.
Gemini. I wonder if...
Hold it. Why don't we finish up the rest of those before we try to figure anything else out, okay?
Why don't we just break for dinner, then come back to it?
I thought you had a big Mac on the way over.
Yeah, but the heavy thinking's giving me an appetite.
Come on, Dippy. You can help me slice the roast.
The dining room's this way.
I still think the whole thing is damnably unfair.
Now, Eloise, you don't know that. Not yet. Not until the entire will is figured out.
I wish I could figure out that empty mailbox thing.
It's those Frankfurters with the holes in them that are driving me nuts.
First letters, first missing letters, first initially
Shouldn't we be
missing
checking
letters.
around to see which one in the group is a Gemini?
What would anybody's birthday have to do with anything?
Maybe it would become clear once we knew who it was.
Evil! There is evil here. I feel it. It is very nearby. It is coming nearer.
Is she kidding?
Don't scoff, Dan. Zeta has some very unusual gifts.
Look, puzzling is bad enough. Let's not move on to spooky.
There's a kind of creepy feeling in the air, isn't there? We need a change of atmosphere.
Mullins, why don't you put some records on?
As you wish, Lieutenant Denton.
Initials, first initials. That's why Josiah used both words. And I think it explains you, Dan.
What are you talking about?
You said you had never met him, yet Josiah had selected you to be here specifically tonight, after he had checked the list of all the names of the detectives in your department. It must be because your name starts with the letter D. What other reason could there be?
But why send for a detective at all?
Because of the evil. I knew I felt something in the air. I think that somewhere in that will, Josiah was leaving us the clue to who his killer was.
Nightcrawler said didn't make sense.
Those letters, our initials. What are they? Take them
I
alphabetically.
put them down on paper.
Good idea.
But which initial? I mean, my name, Dan's and Buzzy's are the same first or last. But
No, it has to be the first initial.
Okay, hold on. I've nearly got it. How's it? Adler, Buzzy, Connie, Dan, Eloise, Blaine. Then there's no GH or I. Then Jerry, myself, Kissy, Lucretia. Then we skip to Pippi, and another skip to Theodosia, and we end with Zeta.
Wait a minute. That's only 12 names. You must have skipped somebody.
It seems to be complete. Could we...
Marvin's.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
of course. I meant to stop at his name and ask him, but I got so busy alphabetizing that I forgot.
Forgot to ask him what?
His first name, of course.
Begging your pardon, ma'am, but Marvin is my first name.
Isn't that a little unusual? Don't butlers usually go by the last name?
That is so, Mr. Dublin, but Master Josiah was most insistent about calling you by my first name. He said something about, if I want to be mentioned in the will. Do you see?
Then the names really must be a clue.
And what is your last name, Mobbins?
Quiet.
What happened? Someone turned out the lights. Hold on, there's a light switch down by the kitchen hallway if I can just find it. Ah, here it is.
Mobbins! He's been stabbed! I know I felt the approach of evil.
Too bad Mobbins did.
I think he's dead.
But how? There was no one anywhere near him.
But why would anyone want to kill Mobbins? Who could do such a thing?
And how could they?
Yes, from whence did the hand of evil descend?
Well, we know one thing for certain.
What?
The butler didn't do it.
Aren't you finished yet? I need a hand with the dishes.
Sorry, but those chalk marks don't come out very easily.
Why do police draw chalk marks around a body?
So they can take photographs of the spot, I think, and know where it was. Why not just photograph the body?
They did photograph the body.
Then why bother with the chalk marks at all?
Maybe they just like making messes.
I wonder what's keeping Dan. He promised to be right back.
Probably paperwork. Policemen spend most of their time doing paperwork.
We should count ourselves lucky we had a police detective on the premises when the murder occurred. Our story of how it happened would have sounded fantastic.
What gets me is just how did it happen.
What do you mean, Buddy?
Seems obvious to me. Me too. The lights went out and somebody snapped them.
Yeah, the lights went out for more than 5 seconds.
Perhaps.
How could somebody come in here, do the deed, and then leave without any of us noticing?
Perhaps the killer was wearing track shoes.
It is rather baffling, though, Adler.
Sometimes when the sense of time is distorted under stress, the influence of darkness may have been much longer. In fact, it would almost have to be, since our killer obviously did arrive, do the poor man in, and depart without anyone seeing him or her.
I wish you wouldn't call him our killer, Adler. Makes me feel like I'm on his waiting list.
Nonsense. Why would the killer want to go after you?
Why did he want to go after Mobbins?
Wait a minute. Mobbins was just about to tell us something. Something that would probably betray the killer.
But if Mobbins knew the identity of the killer, why didn't he tell the police?
Perhaps he didn't realize what he knew. That is, didn't realize it had anything to do with Josiah's murder until...
Until what?
Who knows? Whatever he was about to say, it died when he did. I certainly can't imagine what he was planning to tell us.
We don't have to imagine it. We know.
We do?
He was about to tell us his last name.
But what significance could his name have?
If we knew that, we could probably expose our killer.
The killer, please.
Sorry.
I wonder what's keeping Dan.
What's with you and Dan, Flame? You two weren't into anything more than aerobics.
Of course not. Well, that is, we did go out to dinner a few times after class.
Didn't that defeat the purpose of all your exercise?
Aerobics always gives me an appetite.
What are you so concerned about Dan's return?
Because I want to go home. Dan said that none of us would leave until after he got back. Is that so reasonable?
I hope he doesn't question us. I get nervous enough taking pop quizzes in the newspaper.
An innocent person has nothing to fear, Connie.
Have you strolled through Central Park lately?
I mean from the police.
Then tell me, what do all the station houses do with all those rubber hoses? You know, if he sits that way much longer, some Egyptians are going to tiptoe in here and clap her into a mummy case.
Do not mock what you do not understand, Dr. Burnett.
But Zita, what are you meditating about anyhow?
I'm trying to find the focal points of the evil aura in this house.
Any luck?
Not so far, but there is something flickering, a glimmering.
But would it hold up in court of law?
The law, it knows nothing of the infinite, of the horrible throbbing emanations that only evil gives off. Only I can sense such things.
But what if the law doesn't believe you? What good does it do?
Once I know who the killer is, I can inform the authorities, and they can pinpoint their investigation of that person.
But what if that doesn't help? I mean, if the investigation can't turn up anything illegal about the person, I've done is let a killer know that you're onto him.
And that's not what I call very bright.
Well, if the law will do nothing, then I will do something.
Wait a minute. That's awfully dangerous.
Stalking a forewarned killer?
I, Zita Van Zot, will not have to stop. No killer, no matter how strong-willed, can resist the full
I don't believe in sorcery.
You are an idiot.
God dang.
I'm sorry, did I do that? Return to normal.
Where am I? What is she?
Holy Toledo, Zeta! What'd you do to him?
Jerry, I told you she has strange powers.
Oh, Zeta, this is fascinating. You must come and do your stuff in my kindergarten class. The kids will go crazy for you.
Miss Fundu, my powers are not a toy.
Ah, but I only thought that...
My dear, all I meant was that I do not do conjuring tricks. My powers are very real. The children could become terribly frightened by a demonstration.
Then you don't know kids too well, Zeta. They're probably the most bloodthirsty little... Well, let's just say that blood and gore, to borrow from the sound of music, are some of their favorite things.
Did I miss anything, my dears?
Buzzy just got an accidental dose of Zeta's whammy power. Otherwise, it's been Dolesville all the way.
How's Eloise? Finally asleep. Luckily, I had some sedatives up in the medicine cabinet. Poor dear was almost hysterical about Marvin's murder.
I wasn't exactly the picture of serenity myself. I mean, here we are, casually chatting, and all at once, darkness, screaming, and the lights come up on an unexpected corpse.
Has anyone figured out what happened exactly?
That's what we were trying to do just before that wedding. Frankly, I'm baffled. I didn't tell anyone could have come and gone in that short space of time. But it happened.
Well, at least we know who didn't do it.
What do you mean, dear?
Well, it wasn't anyone in the bunch of us over by the desk.
You can't be certain of that, Kissy. In the darkness, well, anything...
Listen, even an Olympic medalist could have galloped across this entire room, killed Robbins, and galloped back to join us before Buzzy turned the lights on again. For one thing, we'd have heard him.
That's right. And we didn't hear a thing. Not a single footstep during the time the lights were out.
Of course, us ladies were screaming pretty loudly.
But running footsteps are an entirely different kind of sound. You don't just hear them, you feel them through your feet. And I'll swear there wasn't a rustle of sound like that.
Really now, how it was done is less relevant than the fact that it was done. And until we know by whom, well, the nightmare goes on.
No wonder poor Eloise is so upset.
I wish the murder was all she was upset about.
What else is there?
I'm afraid she's even more disturbed about Jerry Delvin.
About me? What did I do?
I knew we should have told her about the engagement.
Connie, dear, it has nothing to do with your engagement to Jerry. It has to do rather with his line of work.
That's not fair. So, okay, he doesn't make the big bucks suitable to a marriage into the social register.
I'm afraid you're all missing my point.
You mean missing Eloise's point, don't you?
I'm not sure.
Just what are you getting at, Miss Travers?
After all, Jerry, you are a puzzle expert. And the unusual form of Josiah's will does take specialized knowledge to interpret.
And?
Eloise wondered, and got me wondering as well. How can I put this delicately?
If you're trying to spare my feelings, it's a bit too late.
Jerry, actually, it was Connie's concern.
What are you trying to say?
Just this. How do we know we can trust Jerry's interpretation of the will?
I never thought of that. How do we know you're not hoaxing a lot of us, sir?
You're being ridiculous. Why should I?
Josiah left a lot of money. Why shouldn't you?
Hold on, everybody. Use your heads. If Jerry came up with the wrong number on that safe deposit box in Lucerne, we'd find out the moment we tried to look it up.
Ah, but there is other information in that will, Dr. Burdett, such as the identity of Josiah's killer.
What are you talking about?
A clever man, a man like Josiah, suspecting he was about to be killed, would find some way of leaving a message. I rather think that the postscript is the part containing that vital information.
Honestly, Zizi, you can't expect us to believe Uncle was killed by a sailor, or a speed limit sign for that matter.
And how about that Gemini thing? I seem to remember Marvin getting very confused the moment that part was solved.
But I already told you, Josiah doesn't look at horoscopes.
Then what if it means something else?
Like a real diamond in somebody's eye?
No. What I meant was...
I thought you said she was heavily sedated, but the kill on the refocus anyone gets.
Good, they're gone. I'm getting out of here.
But the police, Lou, that detective said nobody was to
If
leave.
you have any brains, you'll leave too, girl. A killer can open you fried once. What's another murder, more or less?
But they'll go after you. They'll find you and...
By the time I'm gone, I already got a plane to Switzerland.
Lou, you figured out the will?
Of course I have.
possessions, but I'd like you to have this if anything should go wrong. If only as a memento. It certainly can't be worth very much.
Lou, don't talk like that. If you know who the killer is, you should tell somebody.
After I collect those Swiss francs for the two of us.
What Swiss francs?
Those hot dogs with the holes in them. What else could they mean? Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm in a bit of a hurry.
But Lou, at least tell me who the killer is, so I'll know who to steer clear of.
But I don't have time to tell you how I figured it out.
Skip that part. Just give me the name.
It's that detective. Back already. He mustn't know I've gone. Not a word to anyone. I'll sneak out as soon as there's no one around.
But what if he has to hang up his coat?
Kitty, why aren't you getting the door?
I'm sorry I kept you all waiting so long, but, well, there was a lot of information to get hold of. Where's Miss Ainsley and that Van Zock woman? And Mrs. Travers?
Here, can I take that for you?
What? Oh, really, Pippi? There's no need to.
Well, then I'll just hang it over the back of the chair if that's all right.
Yes, that'll be fine, Pippi. Thank you.
Is this going to take very long, Lieutenant Denton? The sooner I'm safe at home in my own bed, the happier I'll be.
Well, that all depends on how quickly I can get some truthful answers. Would the rest of you please find seats?
In answer to your earlier question, Lieutenant, Theo and Dee are seeing the elevator upstairs. She had a rather bad scare. And when she screamed, we all ran up there. That is where we were returning from when you arrived.
Scare? What sort of scare?
It was nothing really. She woke up in a semi-dark room with the lantern broken and carelessly over a chair beside the bed. It did rather look like she went back to work, though.
That's what I always thought it was anyhow.
I'm sure the other ladies will be down as soon as they finish getting Eloise back to sleep.
Very well, then. I'll wrap up a few other matters while I'm waiting.
Shouldn't everybody be here, Lieutenant?
What I have to say has nothing to do with them or this household.
Then what has it got to do with the case?
That's what I hope to find out. Here's some of the information I got at the headquarters tonight. For starters, your name isn't really Buzzy, is it?
Well, no, of course not. It's just a nickname. I happen to prefer it to my own name. No crime in that.
What is your real name, Buzzy?
Benjamin Bradford Burdett.
It certainly doesn't suit you.
That's why I never used it.
For a monogram, it gives you all bees.
That's how I got the name Buzzy.
Dad, that's all fine and dandy, but why are you bothering with nitpicking little details like that?
You seem to have forgotten Josiah's will, Jerry. It's vital we know the exact first names of everyone here, remember?
Oh dear, that's right. But Buzzy's real name doesn't change a thing. It still begins with B. Same goes for my own name. Tristan and Kissy don't change the will of it either.
Wait a minute. What a dope I've been.
Yes, you have. I'm coming to that in a minute. But first, do you still want to maintain your kindergarten teacher, Miss Fondue?
Oh, I guess not. Doesn't much matter anymore, does it?
Then who are you?
Oh, she's plain Fondue all right. Except that she's really a private detective hired 2 months ago by Josiah Travers.
Okay, and what of it?
Would you mind telling us why you were hired by him?
Normally I would not. Client confidentiality and all that. But if telling what I know might help solve my client's murder, I'm sure Josie wouldn't mind my providing any information I can.
Why exactly were you hired then?
Josiah had suspected someone in this house who was planning to kill him. He didn't know, or wouldn't say, who that person was. He had me to investigate the lot of them, family and servants, to see if my findings matched his. Only, he wouldn't tell me what he knew or suspected till after I'd finished my investigation. And before that happened, well, you all know what happened.
But Flame, what did you find out?
A certain party was greatly in debt. Gambling debts is my guess. And the only way that person could get any money, especially with the potential jail sentence looming overhead, was if Joseph was to die. It's no wonder he was worried about it.
The inheritance would cover the gambling debts?
Well, that's what I did think until tonight, but then seeing the way that the will is constructed, I mean, anybody can get that money if they can break the coding. It doesn't make any sense.
But you came here regardless, under false pretenses.
I would talk false pretenses if I were you.
You mean he's not a policeman?
That I don't know. I do know he's not Dan Denton.
How do you know?
For one thing, I wasn't kidding about that aerobics class. I know Dan Denton quite well. And for another thing, Dan Denton, the real Dan Denton, was the victim of a hit-and-run driver this evening around 6 o'clock, just before we all started arriving here.
You mean he's dead?
Fortunately, no. We ended up with a lot of bruises and contusions and will be in the hospital a few days. I was his partner, so I thought it best to attend his place. I didn't count on playing knowing him, of course.
So that's why you were so surprised to hear that Dan was still coming.
Actually, I'd just been talking to him in his hospital room about a half hour before I arrived here.
Well, thanks for not blowing my cover plane.
Oh, it was a professional courtesy. By a long shot. For all I knew, you were that hit-and-run driver. I wanted to see what you were up to before I blew the whistle.
But how do we know he is who he says he is? I mean, he could still be a criminal pretending he's Dan's partner.
That's easy, Pippi. When the police showed up to investigate the death of Marvin's, they all knew him, left him in charge. They would hardly do that with an imposter.
If those were real policemen.
Oh, stop it, Buzzy. This case is complicated enough already.
Sorry. So then tell me, Mr. Policeman, what is your name?
David Fesco, working out of homicide, same as Dan.
Oh, good. Then the initial's still the same.
Pippi, it wouldn't matter even if it weren't. Josiah had invited Dan Denton to be present, so it's his initials we go by. No matter what initials Lieutenant Fesco had.
Oh yes, I see. So everything's all right then.
However, that brings us back to Jerry again.
Don't rub it in. I've been a real idiot.
Jerry, Ryan, what is Lieutenant Fesco talking about? Who is Lieutenant Fesco? Oh no, do we have to go over that again?
Here, I can give the ladies a quick update.
Well, I wish you would.
While you were away, we found out that Flame is not a kindergarten teacher, but a private detective hired by Josiah just before his death, and that the real Dan Denton is in the hospital, and this is his partner, David Fesco.
This is as bad as missing an installment of a soap opera. We leave the room for a few minutes, and it's almost impossible to catch up on the storyline. Nonsense, Zena. I thought that was something that might be.
Except for the fact that Lieutenant Fesco was just about to accuse Jerry of something when he walked in.
And Eloise was right?
Right about what?
It's nothing, Lieutenant. Really nothing.
I'd like to hear about it anyhow, if you don't mind.
Well, it's just that Eloise, with fairly good reason now that I've had time to think it over, was wondering that if I, as a puzzle expert, might be deliberately misinterpreting the will so that I can get all the money for myself.
And have you been?
Hardly. We don't know if there's money involved.
But what about the Swiss Francs?
What's Swiss francs?
Those punctured hot dogs. Lou figured it out hours ago.
Of course, Swiss francs. We've been idiots.
It's plain as day as soon as you figure it out, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. And that's why I think Eloise's suspicions about Jerry are unfounded. With each clue we've decoded so far tonight, it becomes perfectly clear the solution is correct the moment someone gets it. How could Jerry be flying any hanky-panky about it?
But just moments ago, you implied he was up to hanky-panky.
No, you misunderstood me. What I was accusing him of was just plain, short-sighted stupidity.
That's the word.
And tell me, Lieutenant, what did my dim-witted buddy do?
The same thing you did, Benjamin Bradford Burdett.
Who? It's Buzzy's real name, Mrs. Travers.
His initials are 3 B's. That's why they call him Buzzy. My, that's cute.
I always thought
But what about Mr. Delvin? What'd he do?
simply went by his nickname instead of his actual name. Shall I tell them or will you?
My real first name is Gerald.
But what does it possibly matter what his... The initial's different, so Lou's got the wrong number.
What? Pippi, are you telling us Lucretia's already figured out the decoding of the will?
By the way, where is Lucretia anyhow?
Oh no! She's probably on her way to Switzerland right now. And there's nothing we can do to stop her.
But we've got to stop her.
Then you are interested in money.
Well, of course, wouldn't you be? But what I meant was that she's figured out the entire will. She knows who the killer is.
Oh man, I never thought of that.
Fine detective you are.
I'll get an APB put out on her. We'll have to go to the airport.
Wait, you don't have to. She hasn't left the house.
Then where is she?
You've all got to understand. Lou and I made a pact when we were out in the kitchen washing up the dinner dishes. We've been friends for a long time, and well, we decided that if either of us could break the code and get to the inheritance, the one who did so would split with the other one, 50-50. Why should you? Because 2 heads are better than 1.
Of course. If neither of you had to worry about losing out on the inheritance entirely, you could pull your ideas and get to the solution sooner.
Okay. We all get it. But let's not get sidetracked here. Where is she?
You don't understand. I wouldn't betray a friend, except, well, I don't want to be left in my house with a killer on the loose either.
You know who's the killer?
No, she was just going to tell me when you rang the doorbell, so she hid in the closet.
So why you were so anxious to hang a Dave's coat for him.
I couldn't let him go in there, could I? It makes sense to me. Sorry, Lou, but I just had to tell him.
I need a drink.
There's nobody in there.
But there's gotta be.
Unless there's another way out of there.
For Pippi's sake, there better be.
Lieutenant Vesco, you surely don't think Pippi killed Lucretia?
That's ridiculous. It took me and Fuzzy both to get her down from there.
Pippi could never have done it alone.
And if she had, she'd hardly be fool enough to lead us right to the body now, would she?
Well, she might have. I mean, since she knew we'd find the body sooner or later anyhow.
But if we found it later, Dave, we'd never connect it with her.
That makes sense, Lieutenant, you must admit.
Oh, I guess you're right. Her fame was certainly the real thing. No one could fake treating that family.
I'm afraid whoever did this to Lucretia did a pretty good job.
She's dead?
I'm afraid so.
Oh, and the identity of the killer died with her.
Not necessarily. There's just one more bit of information I got at headquarters that practically puts a spotlight on the killer.
What information? Yes, heard it, Lieutenant, before somebody gets rid of you.
Tell us.
Come on, Dave, spill it.
Don't keep it yourself. It's dangerous.
Okay, I will. Just as soon as I get a word in edgewise. That's more like it. The two main clues are that stop sign and Gemini part.
Just tell us the name, okay?
Oh, all right. It's Adler Sheridan.
What? You're out of your mind!
Oh, Adler, how could you? Pearl Uncle Josiah and Nobbins and Lucretia?
Thea, use your head. I could have possibly killed Lucretia. If she ran into the closet when the doorbell rang, as Pippi asserts, you must recall I was just coming down the stairs with you, and I haven't left the room since.
Oh dear, that's right. He was with us on the stairs. And I'm sure he hasn't left the room.
Not without one of us noticing, that's for sure.
But it has to be Adler.
Why?
Move out of the way. Look here. I can tell you exactly what the quoting refers to.
Pippi, it's all right, it's all right.
But she's dead. She's dead. Someone killed her.
Jerry, we can't just let her lie here like that.
Hold it. It's against the law to move the body before the police arrive.
You are the police, Dave?
And she's been moved already. We couldn't just leave her hanging in the closet. And what's the point?
Oh, all right. Take her to her room.
It's just down the hall, back at the dining room.
Thanks.
Pippi, sit down. You've had a terrible shock.
No, I'm all right now. It was just a shock. Seeing her there in the closet, and then when I came to, I couldn't quite remember what had happened. And I stood up, and it all came back to me.
Adler, don't stand there like a lump. Get her something to drink.
No, wait. I'll get it. You just sit there at the desk, Adler, or we can all keep an eye on you.
I thought that I already demonstrated that I couldn't have done it.
He was with us on the stairs when Dave arrived late.
Well, yes, but it was the way that David said it. He sounded so certain that it was Adler.
And I don't see how I can be wrong about it either. Except, well, Adler's right. If Lucretia ran in the closet just when he was coming down the stairs, oh, now I'm all mixed up.
Why don't you tell us what you discovered? What you thought you discovered?
Okay, here it goes. Back at headquarters tonight, I followed up a hunch I had on that Gemini thing. It seemed to get a reaction out of Melvin's when it was first mentioned. I rousted the city records clerk out of bed and had him check for the past 45 to 50 years for a certain set of twins being born.
Twins, of course. That's what Gemini means, the twins.
But how could you? I mean, twins must be born at least once a week in a city as large as New York.
Not with one of them named Adler Sheridan.
But Dave, what made you search for his name?
This stop sign, 00 miles per hour. Remember why we couldn't figure out why there were two zeros?
And why were there?
Because they're not zeros, they're O's. And that sign spells the word oomph.
And Sheridan, the movie actress.
What are you talking about?
It was before your time, dear. She was known as the Oomph Gal, just as Clara Bow is known as It Girl.
I don't get it. What does oomph mean?
The publicity people at Warner Brothers, well, They indicated it was sort of a sound that men would grunt when Miss Sheridan appeared on the screen.
Oh, hey, that's neat. So then that latter part will be, I've been something by Sheridan.
An older Gemini in this very house. Of course. No wonder Adler did the will and code. We could have seen Adler's name. He would have never let us see the will at all.
But he had to, of course, since he couldn't figure out where the money was at.
Really now, Lieutenant Fesco, I should explain
Wait a minute, Lieutenant. You said the code pointed to the killer. Where does it say anything about killing?
That was the real toughie to crack. I went over everything that could possibly refer to a sailor lying in the sun. I mean, a sailor is a seaman, a salt, a tar, a swabby, and the other part, wow. Baking, broiling, browning, tanning, reddening. Well, the list goes on and on.
But what did you finally settle on?
The sailor was a tar, and he was getting himself a tan.
Oh, and that makes me a murderer. Doesn't even make sense.
Not until you stop and think where one most often sees a tartan.
On a Scotchman's kilt, of course. Of course what? I can't make head or tails of it.
That's it. Hey, that's got to be it. You should also know that I've been killed by Sheridan.
But you're missing one vital additional clue in the will.
Are you saying it points to someone else as the killer?
Precisely. But that other person cannot possibly be the murderer.
What other person, Adler?
My twin brother, Marvin.
What? Pippi, look out! What happened?
Why did she scream? She said something about Pippi.
Don't cry, give her hair.
What was that scream? What happened?
Someone trying to kill Pippi!
What? Eloise, you must be delirious. No one was anywhere near Pippi.
Stop treating me like I'm a mental defective. I know what I saw.
And just what exactly did you see, Miss Ainsley?
A gloved hand with a dagger thrusting towards Pippi's back.
But that's impossible. There was no one anywhere near me.
Whose hand, Eloise?
I'm sorry. From the foot of the stairs, with the closet jutting out like that, I wasn't able to see the entire person. Just the hand and arm.
But there was no one there. Pippi was all alone there by the phonograph.
Just like Marvin's before the lights went out.
Jerry, are you saying you think Eloise did see somebody?
With all that's been going on here tonight, nothing would surprise me anymore.
Of course I saw somebody. I only wish I could have seen who it was. What do you mean, all that's been going on here tonight? You don't mean something else has happened, besides Marvin's murder?
Now, don't overexcite yourself, Eloise. Why don't you go back upstairs and have a nice...
Absolutely not. Not again. I had just barely gone to sleep when I heard all of you screaming down here. That's what brought me downstairs. I heard screaming, then shouting, then a lot of muffled murmuring. I couldn't stand not knowing what happened. Just what did happen?
Aha! That must have been about the time that Pippi opened the closet and we found...
Buffy, please!
Theo, will you stop fluttering around like a mother hen? Found what, Buzzy?
your cook, Lucretia.
Dead?
As mackerel.
But why would someone want to kill our cook?
She said she knew who the killer was.
Who? Who did she say it was?
She didn't.
And now, the poor dear, she never will be able to.
But as a matter of fact, we think we know who killed her.
We do?
Since when?
That's right. You two were in the room we found out.
Found out what?
If we're not being nosy.
Dave found out that Marvin's is actually Adler's twin brother. That's what the Gemini means in the chart. And that sailor is a tar getting a tan.
And a tartan is on a kilt. And kilt is a pun on the word kill. And Anne Sheridan was known as the Oof Gal.
What is this? A murder investigation? Or trivial pursuit?
That's what that speed limit sign meant, Buzzy. Not 00, but O. And OOMPH spells oomph.
And see to remember that Anne Sheridan was the Oof Gal.
So why does City Records clerk look up twins named Sheridan, Anne?
Hold it, my head's starting to spin. Are you saying that Adler did it?
They're all trying to, but they're forgetting one other part of Josiah's coded message. It says that the older Gemini is one responsible for Josiah's murder. And if you did your checking in depth, Lieutenant, you'll see that I am the younger twin.
But that's impossible. Everything fits. I can't be mistaken. Sunday, October 31st, in the year 1900 and...
We know Marvin was born on Halloween. He already told us that.
So his twin brother must have been born on the same day.
I always suspected you were real bright.
But the time, Dave, the time of the birth.
Marvin Sheridan was born at 1:05 a.m. that Sunday.
That's correct, Lieutenant Pesco. Now read the next part.
And Adler was born at 1:50 a.m. that Sunday.
But that makes Adler 45 minutes younger than Marvin.
But that's crazy. I mean, if Adler's a younger Gemini,
Exactly what I was trying to tell you all earlier. It means that the murderer named in Josiah's will is my twin brother, Marvin.
But Marvin was killed because he knew the identity of the murderer.
We can't know that.
But what other reason could there possibly be?
This is insane. You're all saying that Marvin was the killer, according to the will, and that he was stabbed before you could identify the killer? I simply cannot see how it could have been both.
murderer and murder victim, neither can I.
Unless his conscience tormented him until he...
Kill himself?
Theo, nobody commits suicide by stabbing themselves in the middle of the back.
I don't feel good.
I don't suppose your brother moonlighted as a contortionist.
Marvin's had enough trouble just walking across the room, let alone plunging a dagger into his own back.
But Flame, if we keep going on insisting that he didn't do it,
Then one of us did.
which means that Josiah Travers' accusation was incorrect.
Which means the rest of the will could be incorrect too. Even the numbers of the safe deposit box in the CERN.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's figure out those numbers and see if there is such a box.
And just which one of us do we trust enough to fly over to Lucerne and find out?
Well, folks, if there's a secret exit in my closet, I sure can't find it.
Are you trying to say that Lucretia killed herself too?
Yeah, Marty, that's right, another one. No, this time it's strangulation. At least, hang on a second. Buzzy, you're the medical man. It was strangulation, wasn't it?
Seems the most likely cause of death. I mean, that rope around your windpipe didn't help her any.
But you're not absolutely sure?
Dave, it could be some rare South American poison, of course. But why would the killer even bother? That rope around her windpipe did the job quite nicely.
Marty? Yeah, it almost has to be strangulation. We'll let the medical examiner give us the final verdict. How soon can you guys get here? Right, see you then. 15-20 minutes, he figures.
Oh, good. Leaves us just enough time to pretty up before they start grilling us again.
Unless we decide to play charades.
How can you all be so nonchalant about this?
Oh, we're really not, honey. It's just the mind's way of giving out protection to keep us from going bananas. It's called post-shock syndrome.
It's just easier to get giddy than to face up to the horror, I guess. Get running in circles and screaming any day.
I think I prefer hysterics to dumb jokes.
Not to me. I had all the hysterics tonight that I want to have in my lifetime.
Amen to that.
Has anybody figured out those numbers yet?
Doesn't seem to be much fun at the moment. I doubt that they'll let you leave the neighborhood, let alone join across the Atlantic.
Hey, buddy, don't forget that restriction includes you, too.
What are you talking about?
Being on the homicide squad doesn't absolve you of being a suspect, Dave.
And considering the salary they pay policemen, a box full of Swiss francs could be mighty tempting.
Well, that's true enough, I guess. But don't forget, I didn't have any opportunity to commit either murder.
For that matter, none of us did. But 2 murders have been done.
Why don't we figure out those numbers while we're waiting?
It would be nice to read the entire will, at that.
Shouldn't you be refraining from drinking on duty?
After watching 2 murders in one night, I don't think the police commissioner wants to stay totally sober.
Let's not forget the attempted murder on Pippi.
That is an interesting development. I mean, what was the motive? Marvin's and Lucretia could have exposed the killer. But what did Pippi know?
Nothing. Nothing at all. I mean, nothing that anyone would want to kill me about.
Of course, we do only have Eloise's testimony that there was an attempt on Pippi's life.
How dare you! I may not be a spring chicken, Adler, but I'm far from senile. I saw what I saw. It's not my fault that nobody else did.
Eloise, no one is suggesting you were lying. Just mistaken.
Here's that number to make all your dreams come true.
Let's have it then, and I'll race you all to the airport. Do you have just the numbers or the whole calculation?
May as well give the whole thing. In case there's an error or something, maybe someone will notice.
Okay. Taking us alphabetically, it goes Adler, Buzzy, Connie, Dan, Eloise, Flame. And then we skip to GH9.
Wait, remember that Jerry is actually Gerald?
It doesn't matter. I've got to give old Josiah credit. He must have taken that into account when he coded the thing.
Taking what into account, Buzzy?
Which name Jerry would be going by. I mean, the missing letter, the number itself is 3. I mean, the missing letters to the next name are GH9. But if we go by Gerald, we drop the upcoming J, and the missing letters become HIJ. See, it's 3 either way.
All right. We understand. Get on with it.
Okay, the next group of names are Kissy, Lucretia, Mobbins. Then we skip N and O, giving us 2 as the next digit. And then we move on to Pippi, and we skip again, QRS, giving us 3. And then we move to Theodosia, and then we skip U, V, W, X, Y, giving us 5 as the last number. And of course, we end up the alphabet with Zeta.
So the safe deposit box number is 3235, and what was the last part?
82. As an extra per tag, minus the root and the tag.
Just for clarification then, let's see how the entire will reads, just as Josiah had intended it to be read after decoding.
My friends, please bear with me. I belong to a club whose members enjoy dabbling in reguses. Therefore, I have decided to leave my vast fortune to anyone, friend, relative, or stranger who can decode this, my last will and testament.
You will find a large sum of Swiss francs in a safe deposit box in your sons, the number of which is first initially the missing letters of this group.
3235.
Plus,
82.
Good luck to you all, and signed Josiah Travers.
P.S. You should also know that I have been killed by Sheridan, an older twin, in this very house.
Please see to the usual legalities inherent in such actions as JT. I was wrong about that part applying to me. Actually, it applies to you, Lieutenant.
The usual legalities being a roundabout way of saying call the cops.
Nicely put, Pippi.
So seriously, what do we do now?
What do you mean?
Well, let's just say the cops come, take Lucretia's body away, and the case is declared unsolvable. Somehow, we all get off the hook, regardless if we happen to stay in New York City.
Yes?
Well, was Kissy right a moment ago? I mean, do we all just race off to the airport or what?
It does seem odd, the more I think about it. Much as Uncle Josiah enjoyed his constant dabbling into puzzles, I simply can't see him unleashing a group of frantic travelers in a neck-and-neck gallop to Switzerland.
It would be like Josiah and Mills. Of course, Connie, you and I and Kissy have our trust funds, but would you do that to the others?
She's right. Would you do that to Aunt Eloise, for instance? I know you liked her. She should get some kind of inheritance without having to scramble for it.
Same goes for the servants. Mom hasn't given years of loyal service, and I'm sure that Pippi and Lucretia are rated consideration also.
And what about Albert's legal fees? I mean, doesn't he deserve some percentage of the estate for, well, handling matters of the deceased? Doesn't seem right somehow for Albert to just, well,
Stiff him?
yes.
That's precisely what I mean. So what you're all saying is that the will is not characteristic of Josie? I have to agree. I didn't know the man that long, of course. But, well, it just wasn't like him.
But where does that leave us? I mean, the will was certainly intended to mean something, wasn't it?
You don't suppose? Well, it couldn't be that we've somehow interpreted the coding all wrong, do you?
Which brings us back to Eloise's earlier suspicions about Jerry.
Oh, now, come on. Well, I swear, of course I don't know that my solutions are correct, but don't forget, I didn't decode everything in this will.
Jerry's right. While he and I were stashing poor Lucretia in her bedroom, you were all having a field day romping through the clues. How do we know we can trust the rest of you?
But if the will's been misinterpreted, no matter who made the errors, what possible alternative interpretation could there be?
It beats me where we could have gone wrong. Anyone else have an idea?
Well, look now. We all know that some of the coding was very simple, like that last will and testament part. Perhaps if we eliminated all of the sections we were absolutely sure of, and then concentrated on the parts where a wide variety of interpretations were possible.
Not bad thinking, Zeta. Not bad at all.
I agree. Let's take it from the top.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the first few lines seem almost childlessly simple. I mean, the bears, the oblongs, the playing cards, arms and legs, the buses. Any argument there?
No?
And the therefore sign has to mean that.
Actually, everything up to the last will and testament seems unarguably correct.
But that's where things start getting sticky. I mean, do those Swiss francs mean hot dogs? And is that base capable of meaning nothing but lucerne?
And don't forget the older gentleman a bit further along. You know it can't be correct, since Marvin's was over by 45 minutes.
Don't skip around like that, Adler. Let's stick to one part at a time. Like that troubling bit of crockery.
But I really am concerned about the twin thing, Jerry.
But not awfully concerned about the twin, as I recall.
That is odd now that you mention it.
Yes, well, if my twin brother had been murdered, why, I'd be a basket case for weeks.
Always. You're always a basket case. I just don't have to be the emotional type. I keep myself inside, deep and hidden.
Just exactly where were you when your brother was killed, Adler?
Why, I left this room much earlier with you and Eloise. Remember? We were headed for the dining room.
But you stopped to use the bathroom in the hall, Adler, and we went on without you.
And that's odd, come to think of it. Why, when I first arrived here, Adler had been in the bathroom combing his hair or something. It seems odd he'd be back there so soon.
This is ridiculous. I killed no one. I wasn't even in the room.
That's true, but actually...
What is it, Kissy?
Have you thought of something? Yes, well, at least, sort of.
What, for Pete's sake? The last two people who held back information will be talking again.
But Jerry, it's not information, it's kind of a nutty notion.
Well, whatever it is, spill it. And quickly.
Yes, the light's not far too easily in this house.
All right, here it is. For what it's worth, well, it suddenly struck me as odd that for each murder, it wasn't always the same people who couldn't have done it.
Could you run that past me again? I must have missed something.
I just got this creepy feeling that maybe more than one person is in on it.
Cassie, what are you saying?
Well, when Marvin was killed, he was far away from any of us in this room. Dave was over by the bar, and the rest of us near the desk. And Theo, Eloise, and Adler were somewhere else in the house. And Pippi and Lucretia were in the kitchen.
But what does that matter?
Well, when Lucretia was killed, again, no one could have done it. Unless Pippi was lying. Lou was alive when she went into that closet and mighty dead when she came out. And Pippi wasn't strong enough to have hung her up in the closet that way.
Kissy, we know all that. I don't follow you any more than Dave.
Hold on. I'm starting to get a glimmering. Neither murder could have been done, but we know that both murders were done.
And Pippi's murder almost done.
And the killer had to be somebody already in this household. But everybody's perfectly alibi for each occasion, which means there must be a Confederate in the house, too.
Confederate? Ha! You're saying the killer was Robert Lee.
Adler, there is no call to be flippant.
Never mind changing the flashback to the Civil War. We need a solution to today's problem.
Holy jumper Josephat, Dave, that's it.
What?
The Sheridan twins. Did your records give you their weights at birth?
Have you scheduled the rowboat, Jerry?
You sure this strain hasn't been too much for you, buddy?
Just answer my question.
I haven't the biggest idea what you're driving at, Jared, but I need the answer to that one.
Not when you're still a suspect. I would rather hear from a cop.
How dare you?
Okay, here it is. Would you mind telling me what the relative sizes of twin boys has to do with anything?
After you give me their weights, Lieutenant.
Mulligan's was 6 pounds 4 ounces. Adler was 6 pounds 5.
I could have told you that. Except for looks, we're practically identical in everything. Weight, length, health.
Beautiful! The Matt and Theo's Civil War statement clinches it.
What?
Buzzy, when a woman gives birth to twins, what's the usual, or at least the normal, duration between births, if they're both the same size and weight?
Well, there's no hard and fast rule, of course, but usually 5 minutes. 15 tops once the woman is sufficiently...
Buzzy! Not in front of the girls.
Oh, honestly, Eloise, they teach us that stuff in grammar school nowadays.
But I should think that a sense of propriety.
Let me generalize it a bit then. Once one twin arrives, the way is pretty much cleared and ready for the second twin to arrive mighty fast.
That proves nothing, except that our mother had a very difficult time. I think you'll agree an interval of 45 minutes is not impossible.
He's got us there, Jared.
But what in blazes is giving birth got to do with the Civil War?
Not a thing.
But you said...
That wasn't what I said. It was what Theo said.
Jerry, surely you don't think that
I hadn't.
Jerry, you can't mean it.
Mean what? I didn't accuse her of anything.
The heck you did. We all heard you.
Oh, not you too. I was merely trying to find a flaw in a statement we've been accepting without question.
I've had enough of these insults. Why would I lie to you about my weight of birth? What possible importance could it have?
I should think it would be obvious to all of you.
Hit the deck!
That's the thing I saw going for Pippi! Only it wasn't nearly as much.
And that's how Marvin's murder was.
A nifty little gadget, all right. Pull a handle all the way over here for that, and the victim gets it all the way over there for the phonograph.
Sort of a spear gun, except if the person gets it, the dagger stays in his back, while the hand and arm thing vanishes again.
Fuzzy, you knew about it? He must have. That's why he faked that argument with Jerry so that he'd walk away from the group and tempt Adler to employ that dagger thing.
Right.
Excuse me, but
Yes?
what in the world does this have to do with the Civil War?
Like I said before, Mr. Douglas, nothing at all.
It's what you said about the Civil War.
Theo, what did you say?
I really can't remember now. It was right after Adler made that snide remark about Robert E. Lee.
And you snapped at him about turning the clocks back. That's the clue I've been waiting for all night.
I wish you'd explained it to me, Jer.
Flynn, I don't understand. The way you got the job on Adler, I assumed you were in on their plan.
Not quite, I'm afraid. They'd simply alerted me to get the drop on whoever went behind the bar. How it turned out to be Adler, I have the faintest idea.
Except it means that the will was absolutely correct about the Sheridan being the killer.
Oh yes, Pippi, very much so. Josiah Travers was a very shrewd man. He'd merely forgotten the significance on the date of which the twins were born.
15 minutes apart.
Do you mean that Dave lied to us?
I resent that. I swear I told you everything that records clerk told me.
Relax, Dave. You weren't lying. Neither was that records clerk.
Jerry, will you explain to me what you're talking about before I scream?
It's so obvious. We should all be horsewhipped for not seeing it.
Seeing what?
The twins were born early on a Sunday morning, Halloween, which means it was the last Sunday in October.
Jerry, we know that much.
But we all seem to be forgetting one little thing. What happens every year on the last Saturday in October?
We turn the clocks back.
But what does that got to do with the last Sunday?
It's the real time we turn the clocks back. Except, of course, most people do it on Saturday night, before they go to bed.
But the actual official turn-back time is 2 a.m. Sunday.
Hey, are you saying that Adler Sheridan was born at 1:50 a.m., as you told us, and 10 minutes later,
They turned the clocks back to 1 a.m.
And at 1:05 a.m., Marvin Sheridan was born, which makes Adler our older Gemini, just as Josiah had told us.
I never did like having that man around. Now I know why.
Jerry, I owe you an apology. I would be most pleased to have a puzzle expert as a member of my family. But that still doesn't explain the attack on Pippi.
Yeah, that's right, Adler. What motive could Adler have for trying to use that dagger gadget on her?
First things first. I want to know why Adler murdered Josiah.
And why he felt it necessary to chop him into 17 pieces.
Yes, Adler, that was, among other things, a bit excessive.
Well, I will admit, I did rather lose my head at the time. But what would you have done? He had just completed his will, and I knew that I would need my legal fees from his estate to settle all my gambling debts. So as soon as the will was completed, since there was no one else to us in the house at the time, I gave him a whack in the head with a cleaver! He died instantly. You'll be relieved to hear it. But then, I picked up the will and tried to read it.
And you couldn't, no more than the rest of us.
Precisely. Furious, I took my rage and frustration out and one way, handed to me at the time. After the first 10 whacks, kind of like crack.
That pretty well wraps things up. I'll take over on the claim. But please, don't anybody leave just yet. When I get back from the station, I saw a few odds and ends I'd like explained.
I've got an odd one right now, Dave. Why are you taking me to the station?
Are you serious? He's confessed to murder, hasn't he? As an officer of the law.
Aren't you forgetting the police are already on their way?
Yes, you phoned them from that very desk just a while ago.
just a long while ago.
What are you suggesting?
That's your behavior is a bit screwy for one thing. Let me just check up on that phone call.
Hold it right
Then
there.
you did make that call.
And quite cleverly, too. Why that joker even ask me details about the strangulation?
I thought that was a nice touch myself.
I don't understand what has Dave got to do with all this.
Theo, sometimes I don't think you have the brains we're born with. Dave, is that better to you postulating?
Good for you, Eloise.
You're acting mighty chipper for a man who's about to die, Jerry. Get Flame's gun. I can't keep them all covered at once.
Wait a minute. You could at least explain
take a pleasant plane ride to Lucerne.
It's not even that time-consuming, Adler. The money's not in Lucerne.
Then you caught that bit, did you?
What bit?
The misinterpretation of Lucerne and Rebus, of course.
You did lose some hate, Jerry.
Well, yes, but not to you. At least not on purpose. I was merely trying to keep Dave and Adler in the dark. I'm sorry I had to see the rest of it at the time.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you knew I was in on it, even when we were decoding the will?
Yes, but I can't take credit for that. Flam told me.
Flame now. I knew who it was even before I got here tonight. You see, Dave, you weren't quite as deft as you thought, getting Dan out of the picture. He saw who was driving that hit-and-run car.
He couldn't have. I had my scarf across my face and...
Wow, I really walked into that one, didn't I?
I admit, I exaggerated slightly. No, Dan didn't see who was driving that car. But when I'd spoken to him at the hospital tonight, he and I were both certain that the reason he'd been hit was so that someone else could come here and take his place. I knew he was guilty from the moment you walked into the room.
Okay, you're right. For all the good it's going to do you. Let's get it over with now.
Wait, can't you please explain a few things first? I mean, it's not as if the police were really on their way.
You do have all the time in the world.
Even if we don't?
Yeah, but why should I?
For one thing, Dave, you explain about the money not being Lucerne. Don't I deserve any consideration?
Oh, all right. It's that sea eagle. It belonged to the late cook.
But Lucretia promised me I would have it.
Pippi, what are you talking about?
Why would the Travers let their cook keep a stuffed bird in the parlor?
It was a gift from my late husband, Charles. All these various animals belong to different members of the household. Charles thought they made rather nice birthday gifts.
And what did the household think?
I'd rather not say.
But Dave, what's that got to do with that little
I can tell you that. Anyone who solved lots of puzzles can tell you the name that always crops up as the definition of a sea eagle. It's an urn. E-R-N-E. Urn.
And it belonged to Lucretia.
Lose earn.
Right on the button. That's what the Rebus meant by Lucerne.
But if the safe deposit box isn't there, why give us the numbers?
Well, why don't we open it up and find out?
Hold it right there. Adler, you give it a look.
Right.
I hate to keep harping on the subject, but well, we're all waiting here anyhow. Would someone please explain the attack on Pippi?
When I overheard Lucretia telling her she could keep the bird if anything went wrong. I was afraid she might. I was afraid she might get all sentimental after her friend was killed. Maybe pick the thing up and discover it.
Wait a minute, backtrack a bit. When did you overhear them talking?
When he was hiding in the closet, just before he ran into it.
I congratulate you, Mr. Delta. How'd you know?
The secret panel wasn't all that hard to find, but I knew there had to be one in the closet.
But how did you know?
It was the only explanation for Lucretia's murder. I mean, Pippi couldn't have gone up there like that by herself, and the closet was empty when we discovered his body. There simply had to be no way there.
Well, when you came out of the closet, you said you couldn't find the secret panel.
Kissy, honey. He didn't want Dave to know he was onto it.
But why not?
Because the secret panel opened onto the front porch. And who was it that came in the front door just moments later?
Oh, why that sneak? That wonderful, lovable sneak.
Wonderful?
Lovable? Stop being so silly, Matthew. I didn't mean Dave.
Then who?
Why, Charles, my late husband, of course. He used to stay out so many hours, and I'd get very angry with him and wait in his front hall. And so many nights I'd suddenly hear him snoring, and there he'd be, in his favorite armchair, snoring with an open book on his lap.
Do you mean to say?
Oh, how very devious of Daddy. I can see him now, popping into the closet, ditching his hat and coat, easing out through the closet door.
And then snoring, so I thought he'd been there all night.
Sounds like a man I don't like to know.
He was, darling. He was.
Ah, got it! And here's why we need those numbers. It's a combination lock.
Hey, get over here.
What were those numbers anyhow?
3, 2, 3, 5, 8,
What now, Dave? You can't shoot all of us.
You're right, Super Ray. So I have to think that she's my bitch in the chair.
He won't!
What?
What? Well, you're dead. Well, if you're not, you're going to be. What the hell?
Oh, he did. But there was an extension in my wrist. I broke that. It came out.
What do you want me to do? Let the killer know he's duped so he can try again?
Mr. Burdett, you're a lot smarter than you look.
Why, shucks, ma'am.
I'm sorry. A frog was the first thing that popped into my head. You are a bran muffin. That rolling. No chance of that, my dear. I took the bullets from his gun hours ago. We gypsy types are very good pickpockets.
Hours ago? Do you mean before he got the drop on us?
Yes, we wanted to be prepared. We didn't know when he was going to revert to type exactly.
But how did you know Adler was in cahoots with Dave?
Because whoever triggered the dagger mechanism to kill Robbins had to be in back of the bar at the time. And that's where Dave was, all by himself. The rest of us were down here at the desk.
But how did he turn the lights out from there?
I suspect that's where Adler came into it. After he left the ladies for a moment, ducking into the bathroom, he must have jumped out the window, ran around, came in the front porch panel, and reached out of the closet to darken the room. Then all he had to do was get back to the bathroom while Dave eliminated Robbins from the bar.
Okay, we get it. But we can iron out the details later. Let's have a look in that box.
After all, it is what the entire evening's been about.
And I need something to drink. That noose didn't help my throat one bit.
You're lucky you got a thick neck.
There it goes, got it. Well, I'll be darned.
What is it, Jerry?
Oh, the Swiss francs in there?
I'm afraid not.
What?
It seems we made one slight error about those Swiss francs. That's not what they represent at all.
Then what, Jerry?
Those aren't hot dogs, they're pods. And those aren't holes, they're seeds. What Josiah was drawing there was St. John's bread.
Isn't that the fancy name for the carrot bean?
Right. And knowing how Josiah luxuriated in puns, what would that lead you to think?
Caribbean, like the Caribbean Sea.
Exactly. And taking the term sea in financial circles, what would that convey to you?
100, like in a C-note, $100 bill.
Bingo. And in this box, in nice big packets of 1,000 each, with one of our names on each packet, we have more C notes than I've seen in my entire life.
We're rich! We're all rich!
What do you mean we?
Jerry,
Jerry.
You don't need